Hello, everyone. Today with us we have Fernando Arendar from Argentina, and
Yeah.
he is a pioneer of the concept of neuropackaging. And he has his own knitted studio, and he's a graphic designer by background. We learn more from him that what is neuropackaging. Welcome, Fernando.
Thank you, thank you, and kudos to you because you spell my last name and the name of the agency right. So
Okay.
okay, well, my background is in branding, graphic design, and all the stuff. I used to work as a packaging director in an agency here. We work with the different big brands, global brands, Unilever, PepsiCo, and all the stuff. And I always kind of ask myself why some of the projects succeed while others don't.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to blend the narrative here because, for example, my father was a therapist, a psychologist, and we always discuss and talk about the behavior in general. And I think that also type of background spark my interest in trying to understand the behavior behind the consumers, the shoppers, and all the stuff. So I think it's a blend of these two universe. My background in graphic design and branding, and my personal story with my family, my father, talking about the behavior in general. So a few years ago, when I opened my own studio, I wanted to approach the projects with a different direction and trying to understand the reason of what is under the hood, why the consumers choose or prefer um, some brands or packagings or products and all the stuff. And I start diving into the classical like pop science books and all the stuff, and then it was like a rabbit hole because I start reading different papers, scientific papers, academic papers, and what I found there is there's a lot of research and there's a lot of academic research related to not just the consumer behavior or psychology, but related to packaging and the perception and in the relation with packaging and how we perceive the colors, the shape, the food, the taste, and all the stuff. So it was fascinating. I believe it's like it changed the way
Yeah.
I see the reality, and of course, it changed my life.
Yeah. Well, I would like to appreciate on this point because the way I didn't know about the idea of neuropackaging. Of course, like I have a bit of understanding of greenwashing, so but that's completely something one tiny part of it. But
Mhm.
the way your Instagram posts attracted me, that's really, that's really appreciable. So whenever I saw the post, the first post would always like, I would get stuck to it and then I want to learn more about it and I want to see more about it. And most of the time, the judgment was as the second slide of your post is. But then even if I'm right or wrong, I still want to know more about itself. So for our audience as who don't know what is neuropackaging, can you describe it in like two lines, very simply, what is neuropackaging?
Yeah, of course. Um, it's the science of understanding how the different elements, cues, or shapes of the packaging can influence in the perception of the taste, the quality, and the brand. In a summary, in a nutshell, it could be
Yeah.
something like that. So, and applying apply that to the branding and
Yeah.
create brands and um, yeah, to the
Yeah.
develop of different projects.
Yeah.
We try to blend this view and approach with
Yeah.
branding.
You mentioned you work with multiple big brands.
Mhm.
If it's okay, can I ask, how do different brands approach packaging differently? Like, what's their mindset behind packaging?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's one answer to that question uh, because it depends on the project, on the category,
Hmm.
on the product itself. But usually the funny thing is usually big brands um, hesitate more to adapt these new theories and these new
Hmm.
approaches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, um, I've been more successful applying this view with smaller brands than the bigger one
Okay. Okay.
because the and I understand the why because this type of brands and bigger brands have their own methodology and structure and framework and all the
Hmm.
stuff. Maybe if you come up with a different view or different approach, it could be a risk for them. So
Okay.
maybe start.
Yeah. What has been the most challenging design or challenging design for a product for you, if you can
Uh,
recall?
hmm, the most challenge, the, I don't know. I don't know. But each project has its own,
Yeah.
challenge. So,
Yeah. And you
uh,
only do packaging product designing for food and beverages only, not other
yeah,
products.
yeah, we work with beauty brands, but mostly with food and bev
Yeah.
projects,
Yeah.
related projects.
Yeah. So the big headline on your website is test begins with the eye. So I'm interested in learning more about that. I mean, I kind of relate to it, but then I just want to understand from your perspective, how do you see that and why is that the big headline on your website?
Yeah, basically all your sensories are built in your brain and are what you feel or what you see, what you hear, what you smell. There are um, constructions that your brain makes, you know.
Yeah.
And the taste is the same. The taste is the same logic. So when
Mm-hmm.
we, for example, grab a pack of, I don't know, chips or whatever, the way we perceive of the taste we perceive of the chips itself, it's going to be influenced by
Yeah.
the packaging, the sound of the crisp, the color of the packaging, the color of the crisp, the shapes of everything. So that's applied, for example, for sounds or for smell, and especially for taste.
Yeah.
I, I,
Um,
I yeah, go
yes.
on.
So I'm just curious because I live in Ireland and just from my basic understand, EU in particular is getting more active towards like applying laws and regulation towards packaging. And I know for the packaging in there are some other countries such as Japan, especially for food related packaging, there are certain very strict laws that you can't, for example, in Japan, maybe you can't have a picture of a fruit unless it's more than certain percentage of fruits and so on. So doesn't that laws and regulations come between in the innovation or the packaging design, or it's
Yeah,
helpful?
definitely. No,
Or
definitely, definitely. In here in Argentina, we have similar rules
Mhm.
in regards of the photography of fruits, for
Yeah.
example, as you
Hmm.
mentioned. Um, but yeah, it's a photography, especially photographies are very are cues that are very important or um, have a lot of hierarchy in how we perceive the, in this case, for example,
Yeah,
shoes and all that, because it's well what it's called perceptual fluency, that usually the images of photographs make it easier for our brain to process the information. That's why
yeah,
we like to see or the product itself through the windows, or to see the product in an appeal way, or through photograph and all the stuff. So I think these regulations, not all of them, but this type of regulation helps in the I think in the healthiness of the product, or in the recipe, and you
yeah,
know it could make the I don't know, it could make like the product makes feel
yeah,
healthier, or
yeah,
you know it changed
yeah.
definitely the perception of it.
Yeah, so while we were talking about Argentina, Japan, and EU, I was also thinking, does the cultural differences also apply? For example, if you're designing a product packaging design for Argentina versus you're doing the packaging design for the same or similar product for EU market, would that influence the packaging?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
And how
Yeah,
would you, yeah.
because for example, I post about this a while ago, especially I usually post in LinkedIn, and I talked about the different color cues for a lemon.
Mhm. Yeah, I saw it.
I a study where the lemons, for example, in Colombia are green, and
Mhm.
in other parts of the world, in this case UK, are yellow. So if we see something, if we are in Colombia and we see something that is green, you probably connect that color with a lemon flavor. It's not the same in other parts of the world. In Argentina, it's the same. We got yellow lemons, and that could be applied for different flavors, products, tastes, and all the stuff. And yeah, I think it's very strong, um, especially for flavors.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just sharing the screen so
Sure.
that in the recording people can also see while you were talking about chips, colors, packaging.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I just love your post. Yeah, moving on. Yeah, what's your take on like minimalist packaging, for example, in this one? And how do we consumers like which packaging would we prefer?
Yeah, one of my last posts on LinkedIn was in regards of that.
Mhm.
The, you can check it out later.
Yeah,
It's a bottle of champagne, one with a minimal design, and the other one with ornaments and all the stuff. And I ask, which do you think is more premium? And the research behind that is we feel that with less elements, you perceive the product as premium. But if you want to combine with your product that is more or combine heritage, or the history behind and the story behind, it's something more traditional, maybe you could use ornaments, because that's the perception or the
yeah,
connection with art. But usually the minimal designs in regards of premiumness um, has a higher score. And for example, in regards of healthiness, it's also high has a higher score, because we connect like the lack of elements with the lack of additives or ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that's the mental connection we usually do with the different elements of the packaging. This could be the lack of elements, but could be the color, the texture, or the material of the packaging. So we
Mm-hmm.
always connect unconsciously like one of the cue or a lot of the cues of a packaging with different concepts.
Mm-hmm. I'm just curious, why is like Knitted Studios and most of your post color like in the blue tone? Like, and a lot of your examples that you also gave in your explanations, they're blue. Is there any particular reason behind that?
No, it's just, well, it's just the brand color. So
Okay.
we know how important it is to keep like a consistency through the
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
elements. So we always use like the brand colors.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to greenwashing. And of course, it is a growing problem. So for the audience, I would define. So greenwashing. So people like companies, brands, everybody globally, everybody has to meet sustainable development goals, and there are certain targets and indicators then that the companies have to achieve. So similarly, and of course, we as consumers are evolving and trying to buy products that are healthier, more sustainable for the ecosystem, for more healthier for us. So brands tend to do packaging and product designing just to appear more greener and more sustainable, more environmental friendly, even if they are or they are not. So they come up with um, little logos, stickers, and which doesn't technically mean anything. So that's the definition of greenwashing. Fernando, in your designing experience, how do you see greenwashing, and how have you seen it growing over past couple of years?
Yeah, I think we reach a peak of greenwashing companies and brands, but I believe that now companies are starting to step away
Yeah.
from like sustainability claims and all the
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's not because they don't care about the environment. Maybe they don't, but because they realize, I think, it's not a strong purchase driver.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, and with this, I mean, it's it's a common narrative, but the shopper or the consumer um, really don't want to spend more.
Yeah.
They prioritize maybe like something more
Cheaper.
easy to find,
Yeah.
cheaper, convenience, rather than sustainability. And when you ask the consumer, of course, they're gonna tell you that they care about the sustainability, they care about the world and all the stuff. But the real consumer behavior behind this is they really don't care.
Yeah.
And this is not because they are, I don't know, bad person or
Yeah.
they don't care about the environment, but it's the real reason why. And you asked me before about the big brands and how they approach the packaging. And I think one of the most common mistake is they misunderstood or missed the mark about the real reasons behind why a consumer choose their products or the moment of purchase and all the stuff. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding in that regards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It seems relevant. Yeah, I well, I have a background in energy research, and even my current PhD project is about how we consume energy in our homes. So, and specifically, I'm looking at, do we compromise our comfort over energy? And then, like, at my PhD, my abstract, everything starts with climate action, sustainability, and everything. But then it like comes down to, am I ready to pay for it or not?
Right.
So yeah, as a consumer, like because a lot of my research is on energy, and then of course, when it's the reality is, if I look at how I consume my energy in Ireland, no matter, I know the consequences of thermal incomfort, I know the consequences of having mold and etc. But that, of course, if it's expensive, I'm not going to consume it. So that's
Yeah,
relevant.
expenses or like I mentioned before, or convenience. If I
Yeah,
have to, I don't know, travel an extra mile to find
yeah,
you know, um, maybe the best, I think, from my background, the best approaches is when the consumer, in this case, don't realize that you change maybe or the material or
yeah,
the way you produce the product and all the stuff. And they're gonna keep buying. Maybe you increase a little the price, but they won't notice on, I don't know. But
yeah,
when you think that the consumer or the, I don't know, the public in general um, gonna spend more, or they are more interested in get involved with, it's
yeah,
not what's happening, because
yeah,
people got a lot of things in their mind, got a lot of problems,
yeah.
jobs, and you know.
There's so much going on,
Yeah,
especially
that,
over the past couple of years.
definitely.
Yeah, so my next question is about impulse buying. So what role does the product package designing impact, and how does it impact on the impulse buying in supermarkets on the
Mm,
consumer?
yeah, the impulse buy. Well, I think it really depends on the category. The what is called impulse buying, I try to relate that to the maybe lower cost products,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
when in one hand lower cost, and in the other hand the familiarity you have with that type of product. The familiarity helps really a lot, and the convenience, and well, this is very common in the science-based marketing, like the mental availability and all the stuff, like the Byron shop theory. That is very important. It's how easy I could find the product, and how convenient it is, and
yeah,
how expensive it is. So that's like the three most most important
mhm, yeah.
cues in the consumer decision in regards with the impulse.
Yeah. So I was just thinking that apart from the shape, color, and size of the product design, so I kind of like understand what the role of the shape, size, and color that I've been seeing in your posts. But is there anything else you can think of from your experience that also impacts on the design of it, apart from shape, color, and size?
You mean the design of the purchase decision?
No, the product design, but like something else apart from shape, color, and size.
Yeah, definitely the material. For example,
Ah, yeah.
matte finish versus
Mm-hmm. Can you
laminated.
give, yeah, can you
The,
give an example?
well, the research shows that when you use matte finish, your product is perceived as healthier
Mhm.
and premium
Yeah,
uh, than the one with the glossy finish. And the healthier connection, the hypothesis in that regard is because the glossy, you connect the glossy and the shines
yeah,
of the packaging with something greasy, and let help, you connect that with the junk food and all the stuff. So on the greasy food, and also when you place the bags or packaging with glossy finish, the
Yeah.
light from
Yeah.
of the supermarkets,
Yeah.
usually it's hard to see the information. So
Yeah.
yeah, the finish of the material.
Yeah. So since COVID and like even before COVID, a lot of consumers are moving to online shopping. So, and like, well, from my perspective, it's a lot different. I personally, well, I do online shopping, but I still, as a consumer, I would like to purchase everything after touching it, especially if it's come to clothes or shoes. Food products, well, I don't buy online. But then what difference does it make and what challenges does it bring in terms of designing a product if it's, if it's going to be only purchased online?
But for me, from my point of view, it's the same.
It's the
You
same.
yeah, because
Okay.
the consumer gonna receive your product, and the real experience gonna be when the consumer
Yeah.
interact. And 80% of the purchase are made through the regular
Yeah.
uh, supermarkets or retail or grocery
Yeah.
stores or stuff. So I would focus on how the shopper gonna interact or gonna perceive your product in the real world and the real
Okay.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you can show that packaging through online or Amazon or whatever you want. But the real like issue is how the consumer gonna perceive your product when it's
Yeah.
in their hands or when it's on shelf on
Yeah.
the regular retail.
Yeah.
I always try to focus on that.
Yeah. Okay, so we kind of already touched on like if do people care or not as me, how does like it impacts me as a consumer. But then of course it comes back to if it's cheap or convenient or not. But my question is, how do you see it changing or not changing in next coming like 5 to 10 years? Are people going to care more about the product design itself and how is going to impact the next generation?
Well, I think the people actually care about the packaging design, but they
Okay.
don't say anything because they don't need to.
Yeah.
And it's our job
Yeah.
to develop and create good packaging design, easy to process, easy to understand.
Yeah.
We define like the hierarchies of the information and all the stuff. The people like I don't know, just need something, yeah, like I mentioned, easy to process and easy to find, easy to discover. Um, I think they care about that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the main issue in their life. It's not the main important thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but if we create that bridge between the
Yeah.
food, information, and the ingredients and what's they gonna eat and with something easy to process, and if they can enjoy processing that information or imagining that they're gonna enjoy a tasteful piece of whatever you want, cake or I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
coffee or
Yeah.
and the product, of course, should meet that expectation. So it's like a balance between the quality of the product and how you show the
Present.
product
Yeah.
and the perception you create
Yeah. Yeah.
with the packaging and branding.
Yeah. Has AI had any influence on how you design? Like, has it had any change with how you design the products, or is it helpful, or is it disturbing to have AI around?
No. It's helping a lot.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah, definitely change how we design, especially with photography
Yeah.
and imagining like we always like to to create like something that is familiar with something that is not, and try to
Mhm.
create a unique piece. And AI, it's super easy to do,
Yeah,
and create that universe with something. We always try to find the balance between familiarity
yeah.
and novelty. So I think that AI is a really useful tool for
Okay,
that.
great.
Yeah.
From your experience, no pressure, but if you can recall of an example, that with a small design change, a product made a huge influence on its sell or market. Like if you maybe something you designed or maybe something you saw in experience that a company or brand did a little change in product designing and they had a huge influence.
Yeah, I believe that the bigger impacts are from the projects of like smaller brands that they have
Mm.
uh, a design made by them, or
Yeah,
by, an experienced freelancer and all stuff, and we applied like all these insights and the quality of the information, the hierarchy of the information, all the stuff
yeah,
really changed the perception of the product. The product it's the same, but the perception changed a lot. And
yeah,
with that, you can change, of course, the sales and the prices and expansion, and it could be more attractive for the buyers and the retails, and it changed like the whole universe for brands.
yeah. So my last question before I ask you a word of caution as consumer, before that, my last question is there any product design out there in market which annoys you and you really want to change that?
Oh, I know that's a hard one. I also don't like to I don't know,
Take,
criticize
yeah.
the work of others. I don't feel so comfortable in that place.
Okay.
But uh, no, no, you the funny thing is you found out there like big brands like I don't know, using or applying like outdated packaging,
Yeah.
or theory behind that packaging, or um, but yeah,
So
that's
there are many, but you wouldn't like to take names.
yeah. That's right. I'm politically correct.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I
Yeah.
understand. Okay, so last thing, any word of caution for consumers to be aware of, like just to save ourselves from product packaging design strategies.
No, I think the consumers are aware of it. They know that yeah, they know that the packaging it's a useful tool um, to change the perception or influence in the perception of the product. I think they already know
Yeah,
how it works, and we should be more, well, I don't know, maybe humble in that regards, and be more honest when we show the ingredients, or how we
mhm.
combine the ingredients for the brand, and but honestly, I believe that the consumers really know how this work, and it's from our side to be conscious about that,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and be honest.
yeah. That's all, Fernando. That's all from my side. Thank you so much for doing this and for your time. Thank you.
No, thank you for